Chapter 22, Lesson number 2. In this, we're going to continue talking about many different types of illegal drugs, and within the PowerPoints, we're also going to have some embedded videos. The first drug that we're going to talk about is going to be marijuana. As many of you know, that marijuana is currently an illegal drug, although there are some states that have legalized it for medicinal purposes, and in the case of Colorado, even legalized it for recreational purposes. It is considered by the FDA an illegal drug. It is actually a Schedule 1 drug, which means it has no perceived medical value, at least in the eyes of the FDA. But let's watch the embedded video, and then we'll talk about it further.
Marijuana, weed. Some movies and comedians make it seem like no big deal. But a new study connects marijuana to depression. As Felipe reports, experts say the problem can start in our teens.
First, the good news. According to the government, fewer teenagers are smoking marijuana. Still, teens use marijuana more than all other illegal drugs combined.
I have known people who try marijuana.
I say yeah. I know people that do marijuana. A lot of my friends do it.
A White House report found teens who smoke marijuana just once a month are 3 times more likely to have suicidal thoughts.
Well, marijuana is a depressant, so it's not surprising that it might lead to kids having lower emotions and lower levels of energy, which depression is all about. It does have an impact upon their day-to-day functioning.
Marijuana stays active in the nervous system for 3 days after smoking, so partying on a Friday night can affect kids in school on Monday.
They're often in a kind of fog that results in some problems with their relationships with kids. They usually get pretty isolated from their parents, and so it makes good sense that it may actually then lead to more emotional problems for kids.
Studies continue into whether marijuana causes depression or whether kids who are more at risk of mental illness are drawn to the drug.
Kids don't have as much capacity for solving problems. They don't have as much experience for being able to manage problems, so they are more likely to look for escapes than adults as a group.
And there's one more bit of caution. This is not your parents' pot. Experts say teens and parents need to take the drug more seriously. Marijuana today is twice as strong as it was in the 1980s.
The active ingredient, THC, is in higher concentrations. The market for marijuana is a market where people try to improve their product, and they improve the product by making it stronger. So the consequences are that it may result in much more difficulty in terms of functioning at the time that you're on the marijuana.
It may also lead to more dangerous activities, like reckless driving and sexual promiscuity. The risk for mental illness later in life goes up as much as 40% if you use marijuana as a teen. Experts say more teens who try marijuana are becoming dependent on the drug. That's a big risk to take. For more information on the White House report, check out our website, teenkidsnews.com.
So you can tell lots of good information within that video. A couple key things to point out is the fact that the marijuana today is twice as strong as it was even back in the 1980s. Another important thing that was pointed out early within the video is the fact that research is now showing that fewer and fewer teens are actually using marijuana. There seems to be a perception out there that so many people are doing it, when reality is that number is actually decreasing within the amongst many teenagers. But as you can see by some of the notes here on the screen, a stronger form of marijuana is known as hash or hashish. Marijuana is a gateway drug, and that's one of the reasons why the FDA has not legalized it across the board, is because many fear that when that gate is open and people begin to use marijuana, that potentially that could lead to the user wanting more drugs, potentially drugs that are more addictive, more powerful. Once again, it is considered a gateway drug. All forms of marijuana are mind-altering, and they can damage the user's health. A dangerous combination is when people mix marijuana with other substances, because the effects can be very unpredictable, and users may see a change in their reflexes, and they may have a higher level of anxiety and possibly even develop paranoia from the use of marijuana. If we notice here in this slide here, we're looking at many of the different health risks with marijuana. An argument that you hear a lot of people who do use the drug make is that, well, if cigarettes are legal, how come marijuana can't be legal? And reality is the effects of marijuana are much more harmful than those of tobacco. There's more carcinogens in marijuana, and there's more tar in marijuana. It's just as addictive, and it can have the intoxicating effects where it can affect driving and reaction time and reflexes, etc. So it's not a safer alternative than using tobacco. So as you can see, some of the health risks is we have hallucinations and paranoia. As the video talked about earlier, that when someone uses marijuana, it can stay in the system for as much as 3 days. People have been known to have flashbacks because of marijuana use, and they would flash back to whatever that experience was. So hallucinations, paranoia, impaired short-term memory, reaction time, concentration, coordination, and that's one of the biggest things. Someone gets behind the wheel of a car after the use of marijuana, they may not look like someone who's abused alcohol. They might not be falling down and slurring the words and things like that. But when they get behind the wheel of a car, from the reaction time to making judgments and coordinations, etc., the marijuana in the system can definitely have an impact on that. Decreased initiative and ambition, bloodshot eyes, dry mouth, lung irritation and coughing, heart and lung damage, increased risk of lung cancer, and a weak immunity to infection. Some other risks, as you can see here, would be an increased appetite. As many of us have heard, as some people who use marijuana get quote-unquote the munchies. There are some states that have legalized marijuana for medicinal purposes, and people who might be dealing with cancer, going through chemotherapy, maybe the late stages of HIV and AIDS, many of them are losing substantial weight because they simply don't have an appetite or a will to eat anymore. So using marijuana may actually force the user to eat more simply because of that appetite. There can be an increased risk of stillbirth or birth defects. Females can develop infertility. In males, there can be a lowered sperm count and testosterone levels. Therefore, the male may have the inability to father a child, and you also may see a change for the male and the female within their hormone levels. THC. You can see some of the physical consequences of marijuana use. THC is the main active ingredient in marijuana. So with all the chemicals that are in there, really the only chemical that's producing the intoxicating or psychoactive effect is THC, which stands for delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol. It is stored in the body fat, and traces of it can be present in the blood for as long as a month. And that's why the user can sometimes have hallucinations, maybe paranoia, and possibly even flashbacks, because it can stay in the user system for an extended period of time. Some of the mental and emotional consequences of using marijuana. It's not just the physical toll that the drug can take on the body. It can certainly affect the user at the mental and emotional level. If we go back to our very first unit, we talked about the health triangle and the fact that when one area of the triangle is affected, it can have an impact on the others. Same is true with marijuana use. Although there's a physical toll in the body, as you can see here, it can affect the user mentally and emotionally as well. It can create dizziness. People can have trouble walking, and that falls with that impaired coordination. Impaired memory, and that can be impairing the memory long-term and short-term. Distorted perception, loss of coordination, trouble with thinking, sleepiness. Many users develop what's called an apathetic attitude, where they just lose motivation and lose drive, trying to accomplish things, get tasks done, etc.
I had never warned Ricky that this could take his life. He didn't know the consequences. On June 20th, 1996, my husband, Ricky, he came home from work to find his best friend, our precious only son, dead in his own bedroom. Our son, Ricky, had huffed or inhaled Freon from our home air conditioning unit, and he died instantly from what is known as sudden sniffing death syndrome. We never, ever, not one single time, warned Ricky about inhalants. We didn't know to warn him.
This is ABC 3340 News at 9, your news and information leader.
A killer could be lurking in your kitchen cabinet.
Furniture polish, oven cleaner, spray paint.
It's one of the cheapest and most dangerous ways for children to get high. It's called huffing or boosting.
The common term for inhaling seemingly harmless household products to get a cheap high.
Kids just don't realize that there's a risk associated with products in your garage.
And if you talk to them, they're not too hard to pick out because they've lost their personality, they've lost a lot of their IQ, and these are permanent changes.
Data showed us very clearly kids didn't understand the real dangers of sniffing these products to get high.
If you start using them, there's a very good chance that you're going to get hooked.
National statistics prove that it's not just a problem with inner city children or low-income children. Huffing is everywhere, and the problem is growing. The Alliance for Consumer Education says about 1 in 5 students has abused a common household product to get high.
1 in 5 kids have used inhalants by the time that they're in the 8th grade.
1,400 household and commercial products are used for getting high, including felt tip markers, gasoline, air fresheners, and pressurized whipped cream canisters.
Nail polish removers, hairspray, spray paint, glue, butane lighters, cooking sprays. The numbers keep growing.
There's something very, very dangerous about inhalants, and that is called sudden sniffing death syndrome. And that can kill a child the first time that they actually try this.
People who have been sniffing or huffing these things for years have less brain tissue than they used to have.
They're accessible, they're cheap, and they're legal.
They're household products. They're in our own home. They're in your kitchen. They're under your cabinet.
Even more alarming, fewer children surveyed by the Partnership for a Drug-Free America associate any of these inhalants with serious health risk.
A lot of these, particularly the volatile solvents, are capable of literally destroying your brain cells.
Members of the Fort Worth Gang Task Force say young people are now using car and engine cleaning products, commonly found in convenience stores.
So you just pass the soda can around or the bottle around inside the car or with your friends when you're walking down the street or something. It just looks like kids sharing a drink, when in actuality what they're doing is they're getting high.
This has danger at the trial stage and at the early experimentation stage.
Virtually all of these things that are used in inhalants are addictive.
The problem is so bad, Texas is chosen for a pilot program aimed at educating kids in elementary school and their parents about the dangers of inhalants.
Pennsylvania is one of 6 states participating in an anti-huffing program aimed at getting the message to kids before their teen years.
A new prevention program designed by teens to warn parents about the products, the problems, and the signs of inhalant abuse.
School counselors will work with parents of elementary and middle school age children to teach them about the risks of huffing so they can add inhalant abuse to their discussions with their children about drugs and alcohol.
We're excited about what the Alliance for Consumer Education is doing in this effort. We're glad to see the Inhalant Abuse Prevention Kit.
This kit contains everything that a school counselor or community leader needs in order to talk to parents or caregivers about the risks associated with inhalant abuse, the symptoms, and the interventions possible.
We did not know about inhalants. We were totally in the dark about inhalants and inhalant abuse and the dangers and the warning signs.
Every new generation of kids needs to be educated about this all over again.
You don't want to learn about inhalants the way we did. Talk to your kids about the dangers.
We know that data shows that if parents talk to their children, it makes a difference.
talk openly with your children. Know the warning signs.
The risks of inaction on any of our part are far too great.